This video is some of the notes taken from the Bible study on March the 13th at Northfield Evangelical Church. It's on the subject of change and how it is hard work. If you think about that word change, it's a really funny word. Change has featured in the campaign slogan for nearly every political party in history. In fact, in 2024, a third of the political parties used change in their slogan. And yet, every boss who walks into work on Monday morning and announces change is coming will have half the staff knock on their door to complain, whilst the other half knock on the door of the job centre. Our relationship with change is a love-hate relationship. We both want it and don't want it at the same time. We want change to make everything better, as long as change involves keeping everything the same. The book of Proverbs is probably the most down-to-earth book in the Bible. It speaks into the nitty-gritty aspects of everyday life, and for that reason it talks about both aspects of change, about how it is messy and risky, but also of the benefits and rewards. So just think about your own church as we think about the subject of change. Where do you want your church to be in 5 years' time? Maybe you want to see it more reaching out to unbelievers more, engaging more in the community. Maybe you want to see people growing in their faith and growing in their relationships with one another. Maybe you want to see it grow numerically as you see people come to faith and be baptized. Proverbs reminds us that these verbal aspirations have to be followed up with practical action. Proverbs 14 verse 23. In all toil there is profit, but mere talk tends only to poverty. We need to move from the talking about change stage to rolling up our sleeves and doing things to make change happen. And only if we are really truly hungry for these things, hungry to see unbelievers reached, hungry to see people baptized, hungry to see ourselves growing in our faith, only if we are hungry for these things will we put in the hard work. As it says in Proverbs 16 verse 26, a worker's appetite works for him, his mouth urges him on. Only if we have an appetite for the things that change might result in will we put in the hard work. But why? Why is change hard work? Well, there's many reasons, one of which is given in Proverbs 19 verse 2. Desire without knowledge is not good, and whoever makes haste with his feet misses his way. In order to make change happen, you have to put in the hard work of gaining knowledge. You need to know how to best go about something. You need to know and have some kind of plan. You need to also know the cost of change, otherwise you'll set off with the desire for something to happen, but put on the accelerator and immediately be on the brake. You also need to know, those who are leading change need to know the thoughts and feelings of everyone else. They don't need to rush ahead with their own plans. They need to cooperate with others. Church leaders are not called to lead change, they're called to lead people. If those who lead change are not diligent to find out what others are thinking and feeling, they'll have a church, but with no people to attend it. One reason change is hard is because you have to invest time in planning and thinking through how change is going to happen. But this work is essential if change is to be a success. As it says in Proverbs 21 verse 5, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. Or we cannot simply rush ahead without we cannot simply rush ahead. We have to plan and think through how we're going to go about change. But if change is going to be hard work, why go through with it? I think this is where one of my favourite proverbs fits in. Proverbs 14 verse 4. Where there are no oxen, the manger is clean, but abundant crops come by the strength of the ox. Solomon makes a case for having no oxen. Where there is no ox, the manger is clean. If you don't, without an oxen, the manger is clean. But then he makes a case for introducing the ox into the farm. Yes, where there is no oxen, the manger is clean, but abundant crops come by the strength of an ox. In the same way, change is messy, disruptive, and adds to the workload of the church. Without it, things are a lot more clean and predictable and comfortable. But without change, the ability of the church to carry out the work God has given it will be limited. If we want the church to sow gospel seeds and bear fruit, then we have to be willing for things to get a little messy. Disrupted routines, the messiness that change brings, and the hard work of trial and error as you work on something new. Change could be messy, but abundant crops come by the strength of the ox. So how will we respond to the hard work of change? Well, throughout Proverbs, 2 different responses to hard work are described. The name sluggard is given to the one who avoids hard work at all costs. I'm going to read a handful of verses about the sluggard, then I'm going to make some comments. Firstly, Proverbs 6, verses 6 to 11. Go to the ant, O sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. Without having any chief, officer, or ruler, she prepares her bread in summer, and gathers her food in harvest. How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man. The sluggard buries his hand in the dish, and will not even bring it back to his mouth. The sluggard does not plough in the autumn. He will seek at harvest and have nothing. The desire of the sluggard kills him, for his hands refuse to labour. Scoffer is the name of the arrogant, haughty man who acts with arrogant pride. The sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can answer sensibly. The sluggard says, there is a lion outside, I shall be killed in the streets. The sluggard says, there is a lion in the road, there is a lion in the streets. At first the image I had of the sluggard was of somebody with their feet up having a snooze. But God is clued up to know that laziness takes on various forms. One version of lazy involves putting up your feet and shutting your ears. Another version of lazy involves running ahead and shutting your ears. As it said in one of those proverbs, scoffer is the name of the arrogant, haughty man who acts with arrogant pride. Then the next verse, the sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can answer sensibly. This sluggard acts. They run on ahead without asking anyone else what they think or how they feel. Yes, stuff gets done, but because they don't take the time to listen to others, what gets done might not be the wisest course of action, and lots of people might get hurt along the way. Scoffer is the name of the arrogant, haughty man who acts with arrogant pride. The sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can answer sensibly. Before rushing ahead, work must be done to think through things and listen to others. However, this preparation stage could easily become an excuse for an inaction. As it says in Proverbs 6 verses 9 to 10, "How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest." Sleep is actually an essential stage in any work. It prepares you for the work ahead. But notice how the sluggard keeps spending just that little bit more time in this preparation stage. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. Well, it all adds up. A little more time planning, a little more time listening to everyone's opinion, a little bit more time waiting to persuade that person till they're eventually on board, a little bit more time waiting for the right set of circumstances. And eventually all these little bit more times put off change, so that it's to the point where it never happens. In Proverbs 22 and 26, there's two examples of someone waiting for the ideal set of circumstances, when actually they're just being lazy and don't want to set off in the process of change in the first place. The sluggard says, "There is a lion outside, I shall be killed in the street." The sluggard says, "There is a lion in the road, there's a lion in the streets." They're always making an excuse, saying it's not the right time. It's too risky. It's dangerous. Why don't we just wait? But sometimes waiting can mean doing nothing at all. But the sluggard and the hard worker, they do have some things in common. The hard worker wants a good harvest. The sluggard does too. The hard worker wants bread to eat. The sluggard does as well. The only difference is the sluggard is not willing to put in the effort. It says in Proverbs 19 verse 24, "The sluggard buries his hand in the dish and will not even bring it back to his mouth." He wants what's before him in the dish, but he's not willing to put in the effort to bring it to its mouth. He wants to be food growing in his field in 6 months' time, but he's not willing to get out and put the hard work in to get it. The sluggard does not plough in the autumn. He will seek at harvest and have nothing. So think, where do you want to be as a church in 6 or 12 or 18 months' time? Do you want to see these things happen? These things will only happen if we not only want them to happen, but put in the hard work to make them happen. But when will hard work pay off? What you want to achieve via change, it kind of sounds exciting. Seeing people saved from the community around you. The first baptisms in the life of the church for a very long time. Seeing a diverse group of people united through their faith in Christ, growing in their faith and having a role in growing the faith of others. We want to leap forward and see these things happening next week. But the book of Proverbs reminds us that making bread begins months in advance. Proverbs 6, it says, "Go to the ant, O sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. Without any chief, officer or ruler, she prepares her bread in summer and gathers her food in harvest." Now, ants don't prepare bread. The author is trying to make the connection between ants and humans. Ants start work on preparing their food for winter in the summer, just like farmers in Israel would start preparing their bread for December by sowing seeds in July. Sure, they both want to leap forward to that moment when the bread is removed from the oven. The smell of the bread, the sight of the butter melting on it, the fresh taste of that first bite. But to reach that point, they have to go through the less exciting work, the more mundane hard work of sowing seeds in the soil. The first steps of any work often involve less glamorous and less exciting steps. We want to smell the bread coming out of the oven. We want to see people saved and to see people flourish in their faith. But do we have to roll up our sleeves and put in the less glamorous work now in order to get there? For example, asking people's names when they come to the first church for the first time. Asking them to remind us of their name again when we forget. Going through the awkward stages of reshaping church life. Trying things out for the first time to see if they work. If we don't put in the hard work, we'll be like that sluggard. The sluggard does not plough in the autumn. He will seek at harvest and have nothing. But if we do put in the work, we can look forward to fruit later on. Proverbs 10 verses 4 to 5. A slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. And last question, who is hard work dependent on? Well, it's not a one-word answer. Proverbs 16 verse 3 says, commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. It's your work, it's your plans, but they need to be committed to the Lord. As one Christian said, called by the name of Bridge, he says, farming is a joint venture between God and the farmer. The farmer cannot do what God must do, and God will not do what the farmer should do. The farmer must plant, water, cultivate and harvest, knowing full well that his every action is dependent on God sending the sun and rain to make the seed grow and yield a harvest. But likewise, God may send the sun and rain, but if the farmer has failed to sow and cultivate the soil, the sun and rain will cause results in other fields, but not his. In much the same way, we both need to be doing our part. We need to be putting in our work and making our plans, but we must commit our work to the Lord, and then our plans will be established.